I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. We will go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and call the roll. Assessor Moreland Fry.
Here.
Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak. Here. Clerk Giovanni is here. Supervisor Morask. Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee McKenzie.
Here.
Trustee Carabota.
Here.
Trustee Sweet.
Here.
That being done, the first item of business is that we have received a notice from Township Supervisor Laura Morass that she's unable to attend tonight's meeting due to personal illness. She did notify me at least 24 hours in advance per our policy. Our policy requires that trustees who are present to vote on whether her remote participation is allowed. Is there a motion to permit the supervisor to participate in the meeting remotely?
Motion to.
We have a motion and a second?
Second.
To allow participation by Supervisor Morass remotely.
Okay, I will go ahead and call the roll. Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
And Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Now, is there a way, do we have to dial out something special?
Oh, yeah.
Just dial the number right there.
So nothing first, just.
Well, no, you hit that.
No, you do not fill out that first. Don't you have to put it on the speaker?
Yeah, it will be 3911. Are you doing it? One, oh. Okay, and then you hit that. That can't do it upside down.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the board meeting. We're going to continue on with the agenda.
Okay, this is Laura Moran.
Let it be noted for the record that Supervisor Morask is now participating in the meeting remotely. The next item is to select an acting chair of the meeting. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Trustee McKenzie as acting chair in the physical absence of the supervisor.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
You were beaten to the punch by Trustee Sweeney. Okay, so I'll go ahead and call the roll on that one. Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
You forgot me.
We don't call you on that one, do we?
Okay, we can have.
Okay, I'm sorry, and Supervisor Morask.
Yeah.
Okay. We are good to go. I'll now turn the meeting over to Trustee McKenzie.
Thank you. Clerk Giovanni. Oh, this part. Okay. So,
Welcome.
Oh, okay.
Trustee McKenzie.
thank you.
Chief Supervisor for the meeting. Good to see you.
Okay, so approval of minutes of March 26, 2019, bill pay review.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Can you call the roll?
Supervisor Morask?
Yeah.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of March 26, 2019 board meeting. Any discussion?
Second.
Motion to approve the minutes for the March 26th board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Can we call for the roll?
Supervisor Morask?
Yeah.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is a motion to approve the minutes of April 2nd, 2019 Supervisors Annual Financial Statement Meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve minutes of April 2nd, 2019, Supervisors Annual Financial Statement Meeting, waive the reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marask?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
This is the part where we have public participation, if there's anybody that would like to participate.
Hi. For those of you I haven't had a chance to meet before, spending time with, and for those of you in the audience, my name is Beth Penesis. I'm the area manager for Aqua, Illinois, which is a water utility company that serves you. Wanted to let you guys know about a new program that you might hopefully not have to benefit from or may want to help donate to. It's a new program we set up with only donations. In other words, no ratepayers' money goes toward this. It's called Aqua Aid. Unfortunately, some people find themselves in terrible circumstance where they might have economic hardships that were unforeseen. What we want to be able to do is try to provide uninterrupted service for folks. Should somebody find themselves in that situation, we've set up a website where one could call in and apply for a grant. Everybody that is thinking about doing this is screened by Salvation Army to make sure that these are reputable requests. And also, you should know that we had set up a 501c3 for just this. Everything is tax deductible, and all of the money goes directly to this program. So what would happen is if somebody did want to receive assistance, and if they were within the guidelines of the program, the money that they would be given would be deducted from their bill. And so that's what we set up. I want to make sure people knew about that, should they ever know of somebody who could benefit, or if that's something they personally might want to maybe donate $3 to $5 a month or one lump sum, whatever anybody's comfortable with, if they should choose to do that. So I've got some brochures I'm going to make sure I gave to Left Behind that the board members can have and also have in the office. I should have also got something in the mail from us, just talking about Lake Michigan as being the water source here. It was strange, I guess you take this for granted when it's your job, that you think that everybody knows that's the great water that you're drinking, that that's your source. Some people don't know that. So, you should have a sense of pride that you are getting some of the best water there is. And we sent something out recently. It also shows you who some of our field staff is in the area that you may see around town. And then lastly, I'd like to say we had an opportunity to work recently with Commissioner Kazmierczak on road cleanup. He let us know about 2 areas where there's a lot of litter. And we had a team of about 11 or 12 of us came out, and we picked up garbage along the road, and it was actually quite fun. And some of your staff was kind enough to make sure they collected the garbage bags, and somebody was there to make sure there was no accidents and it was done safely. So that was something we did recently that I personally really enjoyed. I appreciate your road commissioner's support and help making sure that happened. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That I actually saw you guys working out there one afternoon, and I want to thank you very much. That area was in need of cleanup, so thank you.
What was the area?
We did 2 different areas. We did one on Holly near the Heritage Point condos, and then we also did something near Apollo School on D. And those, from what I understand from your staff, was an area that we get a lot of complaints that things, people are throwing things out of cars. And, so we're glad to do it.
So this was done on a volunteer basis by people?
Our staff did this.
Staff.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it was fun.
Well, we have another Maine Township organization we've had come up here to speak as well, which is called Clean Up Give Back. And, we've done some things in Maine Township. So
Okay.
maybe if they're still interested in doing more volunteer work, you can join in. And
I'm a crazy woman. Walter knows how to get me. I'll go.
But
Yeah.
we had done part of how, I know I participated, I think trustee Carabona did as well. And,
Okay.
you know, it's just a great thing that we can continue to do, is clean up and beautify Maine Township, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it makes
And
such a difference.
Also, are you giving your information then for general assistance clients? It's going to be in the office there?
Yeah,
Okay.
we know it's here for everybody, and I'm going to leave, I'm not sure the best way to distribute this, if I should just leave this with
I'd
the
like to have
clerk.
one
or-
of the can.
Oh, yeah,
Pass it
definitely.
down.
Yeah,
Just take it and-
Take it and pass it down. Good, really great. Appreciate that, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next is the approval of the general assistance expenditures.
Make a motion to approve
Wait a second.
the general, sorry, I was just looking to make sure I had the right one. Motion to approve payroll dates for pay dates of April 5th, 2019 and April 19th, 2019, and general assistance checks number 51896 through check number 51950 in the amount of $53,858.47. And along with that, I just want to notate that there was one change that DHA is making to that fund that will reflect a payment for both March and April as opposed to 2 April payments. And that's on invoice number 51919.
Second.
So are you just saying we add March?
It substitutes March for April in one of the line items. There's 2 line items that were both reflected as April. One should be March, one should be April.
Or check number 51919?
Correct.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Was there another change that you had?
That was on the town plan.
No, Tom.
Can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marask?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Next, we need approval of the road district expenditures.
Motion to approve payroll for pay dates of April 5, 2019 and April 19, 2019, and road district checks number 20850 through check number 20884 in the amount of $71,365.52 with explanation as provided by Walter Kitch-Merchant regarding draft 20882 and 20884, which was made part of the bill pay record.
Second.
Any discussion? Can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marask?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Next is approval of the general town fund expenditures.
Motion to approve payroll for pay dates of April 5th, 2019 and April 19th, 2019, and general town fund checks number 56705 through check number 56791 in the amount of $313,303.44.
I'll second the motion.
I just have one change that we came across in the review, and that's to check number 56764, a check for $225 to Susan Moylan Craig, and that check is going to be voided, and the total amount will be decreased by $225 to a total of $313,078.44, awaiting or on hold for the required documentation for the meal expenses. Any other discussion?
So are you doing an amended motion? Is it a motion that's amended?
I I second the amendment to hold that check until receipts are provided.
Just for clarification, we've voided the check,
Okay.
and then Assessor Cry will produce another reimbursement request with the receipts.
Okay, so I'll second the amendment, because I think I seconded the original.
Okay. Any further discussion? Can you call the roll?
Supervisor Marrast?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes. Can you repeat the check number?
It is check number 56764 for $225.
Thank you.
And we have a special guest tonight to provide a brief presentation, Catherine Sabara of HRB Solutions regarding health insurance.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Is this Pat?
Yeah.
Oh, so should I not have it signed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Is this the updated one or is it the same?
No, it's the same
one.
It's the same one you have in your packet, but I
Okay.
had made them because I didn't know if you guys were all coming with them, so.
If anyone would like an extra copy, yeah.
Thank
It
you.
might be helpful because they're online, but it might be helpful for people to see.
Oh,
If you have
okay.
extra.
Oh, okay. Does anyone want a packet? Anyone else want a packet? Okay. So, where we're at, we did get the renewal in time for this meeting. So we usually get it like days before, which is pretty much what happened. But I did have enough time to go back and ask for grandfathered rates. We usually have to let the renewal come out. What they do, just to explain to you how this works is, when the renewal comes out from Blue Cross Blue Shield, they just renew it with whatever plans would replace anyone who has a grandfathered plan. They don't renew it as grandfathered ever. So and you'll see that in the packet, they send you whatever plan would replace that plan. And then I have to go back and ask for the rates. I asked them to do it all at once. They say we don't do that. So it would make an exception. I told them I had a board meeting and I really appreciate it. But I was able to go back and get the grandfathered rates before the meeting. So I am coming to you with the annual figure of Blue Cross Blue Shield annual premiums currently, which are $1,052,895.72. They renewed it as issued.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
Oh,
Sure.
that's the same.
$1,052,895.72.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got that.
So, and the renewal as issued is the third line down there. So just skip over the second line, we'll go back to it. $1,124,998.80, which is a 6.85% increase. Okay, really not bad, and you'll see why in a little bit when we talk about the claims. But so when I go back and ask for the grandfathered plan, that takes the renewal back up to $1,157,791.56, which is a 9.96% increase. So it's a little bit more to then go back to the grandfathered plan. Now, I have also, as we do every year, asked for rate relief, okay, and in negotiation. And I'm able to do that because by the time this renewal hits my desk, we've already got all the other competitive marketing from other companies. Keep in mind that other competitive marketing is not underwritten, it's just base rates. So what I mean by that is it's not based on any health risk whatsoever. It's only based on people's dates of birth, their residing zip code area, and their gender. That's it. No health information. So it has to go back and we have to give some additional information, which I'll explain a little bit more, but then they'll give us rates.
And I think as you had explained, it would be significantly higher probably because of the high claims that we do have.
Correct. So when United Healthcare, and what I do too is I try to put in the closest plans to current for apples to apples comparison. Of course, all these carriers have hundreds of plans. Okay, if you saw the packet, it's like 70 pages.
So what we do is we try to show you what we think you want to see and closest to your current plan designs to start there with apples to apples, okay? United Healthcare, closest to current plans, yes, while they show a 37.90% possible decrease, they are subject to underwriting. Same with Humana, they're coming in at possibly at 35.49. Again, that's not based on anything about health risk at all, okay? That's really extremely important, and the reason why I included the next page in your packet is because I want you to see all the claims that are current right now. So if you look at the savings, and you'll see in the spreadsheets too exactly how much dollar amount that is in savings. When you look at the next page, at the bottom of the page in red, you will see that these are all current claims. Now, because of the size of this group, we do not get specific claim experience. What I mean by that is we don't get, this person is taking this drug and this is what it is. So you're not self-funded, you're not level funded, you're what's called fully insured. And because of your group size, this is all we get. They will only give us the dollar amount of the claims and that's it. They won't tell us what it is. They do tell us, which is helpful, that it's current. And why that's helpful is because that helps you as a group say, well, do we want to go into underwriting? Because if we have well over $1 million in current claims, are they really still going to give us that $300,000 savings? I can tell you doing this for over 16 years, probably not. They're probably going to decline to quote, is probably what's going to happen. Humana for sure decline to quote, okay? The other thing that has to be taken into consideration is just a couple things that I want to be mindful to mention is that you guys have had Blue Cross Blue Shield for a very long time. I'm not sure the exact years, but I know the whole time I've been here, and I think about 20 years.
2009.
So a long time, yes, a long time. Okay, so they actually have been very favorable to you. And they're going to be more favorable to you than any other carrier. And I can say that because I've worked with all the carriers for so long. Blue Cross not only is the best carrier out there, and if you check hospitals and physicians that other carriers have, so if you were to go to United Healthcare or Humana, they're not going to have the best cancer hospitals, okay? So we check that ourselves, online. So say you go to United Healthcare, okay, they do not have University of Chicago Hospital, it's just one of the best cancer hospitals. They do not have Rush, okay, so they drop them. So, you got to think about all that too. So what are you taking away? It's not really an apples to apples comparison. It's not. Humana would be such a drastic difference. Whenever people go from Blue to Humana, I can tell you it's a nightmare. I mean, it truly is a nightmare because it's just so different. Processing of claims is different, RX is different, so there's not even a way to compare RX. So let me take for instance, so you have something in a generic tier with Blue Cross, and you go to United Healthcare and all of a sudden it's in, formulary tier. What do I mean by that? Well, they were paying $10 and now they're paying $50. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and there's no way to compare that to all the drugs that people are taking, how big effect that's going to have on everyone. So there's a lot of things. One other thing is that currently, so when you guys placed this plan a long time ago, things were a lot different in the industry. I mean, look how much they've changed just from 2014 healthcare reform, right? So even prior to that. So if we were to move to another carrier, we could not include any trustees, and we do have a trustee on the plan. So you need to know that because that's important. Because you cannot include any longer, because you have to give a wage and tax, you have to give all kinds of documentation when you go to another carrier. And nobody that's making less than minimum wage for 30 hours a week can ever be included on the plan. So those are just all things to take into consideration when you're seeing this and you're saying, wow, that looks great. There's a lot of other things to think about. So that being said, I think I covered everything on the previous page. Really, I just made the comments about Blue Cross. Blue Cross too, I want to say, and I did put some history in here for you so you could get a good, really look back of where we've been. Now, I didn't note on there all the rate reductions that I had,
what I'm showing you in the history, more into this packet here, is really how good they've been to you guys for renewals. I can just tell you that typically what's done in the industry is a carrier will give you a teaser rate, even if they say that we didn't have bad claims right now. And they looked really attractive and they were doing anything they can do to get you, right? Well, guess what? They're gonna make it up the next year. Okay, so really what's happening is, and nobody enjoys this, but you know, once you start this and you get off, you're pretty much band-aiding for 12 months and just jumping carrier to carrier to carrier, like who's ever gonna give you the best price to get the deal for the year, and then at renewal, then you pretty much come back and it's painful. So, did anybody have any other questions? I mean, we'll certainly go over the plans and the spreadsheets, but thus far, from everything I've said, I just want to address any questions maybe.
One is, so we're locked in with, when I say locked in, I mean the renewal as issued is a firm rate of $1,124,998. That's a 6.5% increase, 6.85% increase from the year before, which was the $1,052,895.
Correct.
It's $104,000 more. The grandfather plan, which would bring it to $1,157,000, which is 9.96% above last year's, is not necessarily locked in, because there might be a rate reduction due to some changes.
So just correction, everything you see here right now on Blue Cross, it's all firm.
Okay,
Right
so
now, it's alive to this moment. However,
Okay.
when I get my negotiated rate back, which I'm hoping to get rate relief like we usually do,
That's
it's
what I'm
usually
referring
a
to.
couple percent or something. But
Okay.
everything you see right here, whatever we
Is
get for
worse.
rate relief would apply to any situation. Any plan that you go to
Okay.
will then get that rate reduction, whether it's the grandfather or the replacement plan.
Right.
Doesn't matter. If they
Okay.
say, we're gonna give you another 2% off, it applies across the board.
But my point is though, that we might anticipate some rate relief that could bring the 6.85 down to the 9.96.
Correct.
Because we had some employees that had left. Since this was provided, and that hadn't been presented.
Well,
yet,
I
right?
actually did tell them that a long time ago, so
The most
we
recent
there was
one?
some known, now normally we don't know about health risk, okay, experience, but there was some things that were obvious to the group, okay? So I did mention those things prior to them even issuing the renewal, and then reminded them again when I received it. So they do know about that, but they still told me that those claims listed there are current. So they're trying to tell me that what was on there.
The unfortunate death we had 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I don't know if that truly is part of those claims listed or not, but let's just say that it is. There's still a lot there that are other claims not associated to that one. Do you know what I'm saying? So I did make them aware of that and ask them to double check on that and please, confirm that you're going to take into consideration this risk that we know is.
So it might be reduced further.
It might be.
And would we know that within the next week or so?
He said that probably by the end of this week, because I asked him if he could please give me that information for this board meeting. He said, I got you the grandfather rates, but I really don't think I'm going to, underwriting's going to have that additional information for you until the end of the week.
So
I might have it this week is my guess, and if not, very early next week.
Okay, is that helpful? And then as far as including any other plans, because these are in many ways beyond Cadillac plans that we have here in the township, do we have an option to have another PPO that would be, not that it still could be Cadillac, but
Like I mentioned, there are a lot of plan choices. So when they deliver your current renewal to me, it is a very large package. Same with all the other carriers. There's hundreds of plans to choose from. So to answer your question is yes, I just have to, if you could give me a better idea of what you'd like to see. Are you talking $1,000 deductible? Are you talking $2,000, $2,500, $3,000? So if you could give me a better idea, I could certainly provide you with, what you're requesting.
well, it's the premium that's high. for the family, it's 33,661 under the grandfather new rate. So, so you want me to look premium-wise, try to get to a certain number, or do you want, are you referring to, you know, deductible-wise, or?
Yeah, I don't know if Susan is, if trustee Sweeney is finished, but. Do you have any-
Yes.
So one of the questions I was going to ask is about, I think they're called plan designs or changes in plan designs. Our current grandfather plan has a very low deductible, I would say extremely low deductible. So I, for one, would want to discuss asking you to provide us design plan or whatever the terminology is, changes so that we can see the change in premiums for a higher deductible plan.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what the denominations are, and I don't know how you can inform us or educate us on what we should be looking at as far as different points and what other variables. Even just Blue Cross Blue Shield, as you said, has lots of options, and I would think with Blue Cross, since they have all of our, you know, historical data and...
There's no underwriting with Blue Cross, correct? So we don't have to worry about anything. Whatever I look at or whatever I bring to you, it's firm.
So I think that would be very, very good information for us to have. I don't know how much effort that takes or how long that takes.
It's not
I'm
about,
sorry, Claire, didn't she do that? Isn't there some
She's
other plan that isn't grandfathered that's given under the third child?
No,
We have the
from what I
HSA.
understand, what Catherine has done is provided us similar plan design numbers. So what I'm suggesting is that we look to change our plan design because we have a very, very low deductible plan to something more affordable to a high deductible plan.
Right, but I think what she was saying is that the only ones that are being offered, like the choices, like whether to say with Blue Cross or to leave Blue Cross. Am I right, Catherine?
So you could
You have
state
to go into underwriting and then, correct?
any other carrier would require underwriting, correct? And Blue Cross would not amongst the plans that they put out in their renewal. I think the question is just looking at other plan designs. Fine, if I understand.
Correct.
Through Blue Cross.
Are there other plans besides the second one that you provided us, the non-grandfathered Blue Cross, the non-grandfathered Blue Cross, as far as I can tell, does have a higher deductible? And it would allow us to increase our employee contributions should we choose, because we wouldn't be grandfathered, correct?
So this non-grandfather that they automatically issue at renewal has the same deductible but a higher out-of-pocket. So the out-of-pocket goes up by $1,000 for an individual. It actually goes up $3,000 for a family, but the deductible stays the same. The primary visit goes up by $10, the specialist visit goes up by $10. The preventative is covered at 100%, and hospital services are pretty much covered the same. Everything else is pretty much covered the same, except for RX is a lot different. The RX copays are, some of them could be quite a bit higher than what you have now.
But that plan actually covers more on the preventative, right?
Yes, so the preventative, because of healthcare reform, is a better coverage, so that's an enhancement to go with the issued plan rather than stay with the grandfather plan, correct?
So being off a grandfather plan would allow us to raise employee contributions, allow the trustee currently on the plan to stay on the plan, and lower the rates, because you're still negotiating the two Blue Cross rates, correct?
That is correct.
And we raise the deductible, right?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we also raise the deductible.
It doesn't raise the deductible, it raises the out-of-pocket. for the family. So what the 10% that you're paying, and anything you pay for copay and out of pocket, and RX, anything you pay for copay goes toward that accumulation bucket of the out of pocket. And that goes up by $1,000 per person and $3,000 per family. Yes. So I don't, I'm sorry, I don't know how, I don't know how much different you want. If you just want to see various plans, you want to see $1,500 deductibles, you want to see $1,000, $1,500, $2,025. I mean, like I said, I don't know how much you would want to change the current benefit off of this change, but, because like I said, there are a lot of options. It just.
Are you saying that with Blue Cross, we don't need to do any underwriting no matter what the plan is?
That's correct.
But anything other than Blue Cross, whether it's a grandfather, a non-grandfather, a higher deductible, everybody like in it and doesn't need to be underwritten and wouldn't have cheaper rates that might rate. And we have a defined knowledge of what the rate increase would be.
If you stay with
6.5 to 9 point whatever, and then you're getting that 12 cents, correct?
Yes, I'm still negotiating that rate with Blue Cross, and there's no underwriting necessary with Blue Cross, only with the other carriers.
Is there an HMO under the renewal also?
There is, and that's already been switched to a non-grandfathered plan, because every year we look at what does the non-grandfathered plan look at next to the grandfathered plans, and I think it was 2 years ago, maybe, Denise, if you could help me with that, that the HMO actually looked surprisingly a little better. So we've always had really low enrollment in that plan, but we did go ahead and just take that off the grandfathering. It kept the rates down, and so we just switched out, and we no longer grandfather the HMO anymore. It's in here too. It's the very first plan. It's not a grandfather plan. So the only plan left that's grandfathered is the PPO, where most of the population is. The HSA, we've really never had any enrollment in that. I am showing you that. That changes every year too. So another thing too, I just want to put this out there, is that once you go off that grandfathered plan, you're subject to whatever happens every year with the plan. So next year they can take this plan and they can double the exposure and everything, and you have no protection anymore. So the only thing is, when you're in the grandfathered plan, you know that that's not going to happen to you, right? But once you go out of that, every year they just issue the renewal with whatever they want to do to change that plan that you're in. And that's what, so on the HSA, for instance, it's never the same plan. Every single time I've showed it every year, it changes. Because they make little tweaks to it, they call it another name, and this is how they're renewing it this year. So that's what you're subject to once you go out of the grandfathering, whatever it is that they do every year with the plans.
Versus.
Last year, you had started at 9% on the grandfather and got it down to 4.8, correct?
Yes, I believe that's true. So, let's see what the history was. I know that I did put the history in here. We are at 6 point.
Originally started at 16, and then we got it down to 9, and then the reduction is 4 points.
Yeah, I think what you're thinking is when it's originally issued, and then it goes back up with the grandfathered rates, and then we brought it back down. So when we're able to, so I think that's another reason why we've continued to grandfather the plan so often, is because that after negotiation, we've really brought it down to lower than it was originally issued. And to have the protection that who knows what tomorrow brings or next year brings on the plan.
So, Andre, when do you expect to have the negotiated rate reduction? Because I'm wondering if we just put like the continuation of this on our special meeting. I don't know.
I'm thinking, Laura, at the end of the week, latest early next week.
Oh.
That's great.
Let's throw it out there.
I asked for it for tonight, and underwriting could not achieve that, so I apologize for that.
No, that's pretty short though. It's pretty short.
They just gave me the renewal on what was it, the 22nd?
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
So from your experience, when you're looking and comparing or analyzing a grandfather type plan like the township has now versus a higher deductible plan, is there anything that you can say with your experience, like what we should expect the premium prices to be up or down?
Well, so there'll definitely be less. If you're gonna look at higher deductibles, the premiums are definitely gonna be less. Sometimes we implement strategic, other administrative plans to try to bring the level of benefit not to be so different, and, you know, maybe reimburse some of that back to the employees. That's, you know, just another way to do that, and without making that too confusing. You know, there's something called an HRA. So sometimes we'll do that. Sometimes we'll say, okay, well, you know, here may be a way to save money, but maybe not impact the employees so much, because with the saving reserve bucket, we're able to go back, kind of like we talked about a little bit, and reimburse people so that that exposure gap isn't so large, but you have to have a reserve enough to do that. And I don't know until we really work the numbers on that, what that would look like. It's not like a certain percentage, like $1,000 deductible might be 10%, but it's not across the board, because it's all over the place. You know, I really have to just be looking at the renewal to figure that out.
Do you represent any other municipalities?
Yes.
And do any other municipalities have this type of plan?
Yes.
Do you know?
So they don't have this exact grandfathered plan, but the ones that I've had for a very long time, they all have pretty rich plans. One has gone to an HMO with a 0 deductible, and another has 3 plans like you guys do. One's an HMO, 0 deductible, and then the other is a PPO. It's actually a $250 deductible, so it's a little lower deductible than yours, and $1,250 total out of pocket. So, and then they have an HSA that's $2,500 deductible, but the employees don't pay anything for that plan.
So are you saying with these, is there only one municipality that you represent?
No, I have a few.
And the one that you were talking about, they now only have an HMO?
So, yeah, we've done a lot of different things there, and they've left Blue and they've come back to Blue, and so there's been a lot of jumping around there. But right now, they've had PPOs always in the past, and they tried the HMO, and it's working out pretty well for them. So it's a 0 deductible plan, and they actually didn't get any increase at all this year. So, but you know, every group is different. It depends on the size of the group too, how the ratings go, because, you know, if you're under 50, over 50, if you're over 50, you're always underwritten no matter what, on your wage and tax, all inclusive, full and part-time and seasonal. If you're under 50, there's, they call it community rating, ACA rates, there's no underwriting. That's not always so favorable, you know, and there are other options for people to be underwritten and get discounts if they're deserving of them with other plans that are called level funded. So some people, you know, do that and others don't.
So is there a way, since we're already, you know, working with Blue Cross, is there a way for you to go to them and say, listen, my client is looking for rate reductions or premium reductions, and, you know, they're also asking me for a plan design or options. Is there a way for them to give you some pricing without us having to?
Oh, of course, yes. I already have access to it, yes. So
what do we have to do in order to get you to do that?
I can do that for you, that's not a problem.
Do we need to vote on that?
No, there's
It's on the agenda for vote.
Oh,
So,
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can deliver that, and I would prefer to deliver that to you once I get my final negotiated rate reduction, because that's just less back and forth and, you know, make it easier for everybody for decision making as well.
That makes sense.
So if I can get the rate relief and then do that for you, that probably would be best.
so do we have to do anything to just ask Catherine to do that research?
no, you can just ask her to do that. That's great.
Sure.
Special meeting or whatever.
No problem.
Thank you. Oh, wait, I have another question. On the page where you have the underwriting has indicated the following large claims, in red, is current?
Yes.
So what does current mean? Is that the last 12 months? Is that, what does that mean?
That is correct. So that's not something I create, that page, that came right from Blue Cross. That's like your third page into your renewal, that page. And so they give those listings as current claims just to kind of give us an idea, because obviously, you know, they're probably gonna come back to me and say, well, yeah, we know you want rate relief, but look at these claims. So, you know, because I've already sent them my other marketing and said the group is, you know, going to a board meeting, the group is gonna decide if they wanna go elsewhere, so please, you know, help me out here, you know, bring the rates down. So this comes right from Blue Cross, and like I mentioned, this is all the information we get. We don't get any more specific information than what's listed here in red because of the size of the group and because it's a fully insured group. That's all that we get.
What does fully insured versus something else?
So fully insured means that you don't really get any risk, any experience of the claims. Level funded is very popular nowadays, and so is self-funded. In those scenarios, you would typically get, you would get more claims details. In level funding, you don't get specific as to person, but in total self-funding, you get all the information. So you know more of the claims history per person.
You can say who has that,
If you were totally self-insured,
it's HIPAA laws?
no, not when it's a self-funded plan. Well, you usually have appointed people who have access to that information, not everybody.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be something that you agree to a board meeting and you know what I'm saying? So you have a couple HIPAA compliant personnel appointed.
And now, why did the current claims stop with just 6? If it comes from Blue Cross, you have all of them.
They only list the very large ones, so they're only going to list everything that's over 25,000. These certainly are not all your claims. These are the ones that they want to point out that are extremely high and ongoing. Okay. So if there was some that were not ongoing right now, they would list that.
They would say not ongoing?
Yeah, they would list that they're, but they put current here. So
What if someone who had a large claim is no longer the group? Would that make a difference with renewal?
yes, it absolutely will make a difference in my going back and asking for rate relief in my negotiations, which is why I asked them to please be sure that the couple claims that we are obvious that we do know about are not included in this.
And those are not?
So they tell me, but I asked them to double check. So when I get my rate relief negotiation, I'm hoping to get more information on that and confirmation that they did not include those claims.
Now, I noticed that number 3 is a lot lower than the first 2. I mean, the number 2 is a lot lower than number 1. So it drops dramatically. So you said that they're going to list things over 25,000, but what, in your experience, is something that Blue Cross would consider a high claim?
Well, they really are going on dollar amount, because without getting too complicated, they insure themselves too. So they have spec and ag, so they have specific stop loss and aggregate stop loss, so they're covering themselves. So they're gonna only show us like when they breach their either spec or ag. So if they have, and they don't tell us what that is in fully insured. They don't tell us. We have a spec of, you know, 25,000 or 50,000. And I'm not saying that it is 25 just because they're listing these. They just, you know, they only tell us about high claims. And when they list this like this doesn't mean, so this is a breakdown of separate claim. I mean, it's not an accumulation of many claims that make 26 or many claims that make 881. That is one in itself, and that's why they feel it's important to point that out. So they have one claim that's 881,000. They have one claim that's 251. It's not an accumulation of, you know, miscellaneous claims. So they just list those just for our information, so that when we're obviously determining what we're going to do, where we're going to go for underwriting and things like that, we can have discussions that are have a little more information to base, you know, our decisions on.
Okay.
So looking at that again, so the claims that are listed there It's about $1,290,000. That doesn't include any claim that's $25,000 or less, is that correct?
Not sure I understand.
In other words, the claims that are listed there
Mhm.
total about $1,290,000.
Oh, all inclusive, all the listed claims?
Right.
Correct. Okay.
That does not include any claims under $25,000.
That is correct. There are many, these are just the ones that were high and they're called shock claims. These are just what they
Right.
call shock claims.
That's what I was just gonna
Yes,
get to.
correct. Mhm.
Thank you for doing that. Then also, if there's something that's no longer ongoing, that would.
It should not be listed under this current column. Correct, and that's what I'm getting written confirmation on in, when they come back to me with my negotiation.
Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you so
Thank you
much.
Sure,
Thank you, Catherine.
No problem. Thank you.
So on to new business. As a preliminary matter, I want to mention that we have 3 items that are related to the budget on the agenda. Specifically, we need to adopt a tentative budget for the township and the road district and have them available for public inspection. We also need to select a date for the budget workshop so we can review the budget in depth and answer all of our questions or all anyone has. I understand from our attorneys that most townships simply post their current budgets and place them on file on a tentative basis. Because we want to be fully transparent, I believe we should do that and then have public conversation at a special workshop that we're going to schedule tonight about any changes that we need to make or any discussion that we want to talk about on a specific line item so that, can occur before the public hearing, and we can do that at a time when the supervisor can also be physically present. So, I would like to move forward on approving or adopting the tentative budget for the town fund and the GA. Yes.
Do we have a discussion or?
Well, is there a motion first?
Are you going to make the motion?
Adopt the figures from the 2018-2019 actual amended budget and the tentative budget displayed on file.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I heard the actual motion. Can you repeat the motion, please?
To adopt the figures from our amended budget we did last fall, to place that on file as our tentative budget and starting point for discussion.
And just for clarity's sake, I'm looking at a comparison that I believe Denise or Dana prepared for us. Right?
No, was it for town fund and GA?
Yes.
That was Dana. Yeah, we're Dana.
Okay. That Dana prepared for us, and it's a 10-page document. It is Maine Township Ordinance 2019-4, Tentative Budget and Appropriation Ordinance for 2019-2020. And I think what Laura is referring to is the column on the right that is labeled 2018-19 budget. And on page 1, the total estimated revenues of that column were $5,062,137, and the total estimated funds available in that column were $11,985,105. And going to page 10, just so that we're clear, there is a by fund breakdown between 1 general town fund and 2 general assistance fund. General town fund, the proposed tentative budget that Laura proposed for general town fund would be $4,590,121, and for general assistance fund would be $830,891, for total appropriations of $5,421,012, correct?
That's correct.
You guys see that?
Yes.
Kim?
I would like to suggest, you made a motion, so I don't know if there's a second for discussion.
The supervisor made a motion, and I think trustee Jones.
Trustee Jones
Seconded.
That's seconded it.
Okay, so are we open for discussion?
Yes, we are open for discussion. Yes, trustee Sweetie?
I would ask that, in light of the fact that we don't have final numbers for healthcare, and we also don't have final numbers yet, excuse me, for the salary study, that we put on, because we have to have this temporary budget by the end of this month, right? What is the date?
That's nice.
By tonight, okay.
Tonight's our last meeting of the month.
Okay, so this is our first meeting that we got discussion, budget, that we actually got a budget presented to us. But that we actually, that we use the actual numbers from last year as opposed to the budgeted numbers. Because our actual expenditures vary somewhat. And as a separate notation to that, so I don't know if anyone wants to second that amendment for the consideration.
I can second that. I'll
Okay.
second that.
So I would ask that we, vote on that amendment first.
I'm sorry, I have a hard time hearing what's being motioned.
I made an amendment.
Sorry.
I'm asking for an amendment that instead of using the actual budget numbers from last year, that we use the actual expenditures as noted per what Dana had prepared on that side-by-side comparison of what the budget was for 2019-20 versus the actuals. So, and it varies obviously by every different department.
So it would be the middle column.
But it's the middle column,
Right.
and then we use the title, the total of the actuals. I would also note that the actual amended budget, when I did a comparison and I was working till the last minute to look at it, there's numbers that actually don't mesh up anyway, specifically in general assistance and home relief. So, I know the categories differ somewhat, but, so if we can vote on that amendment?
I don't know if anybody else has any further discussion on that, but, so, my thought on this is that the actuals include some extraordinary expenditures that were not previously budgeted for, and I haven't had a chance, I don't know if you have, to go line by line to figure out which those are. I am just noting quickly that it appears from a quick glance that most of the actual totals are higher. I might be wrong about that, but I know that there were some extraordinary instances, which is why we amended the budget. I can't remember off the top of my head what all of them were for. And
One of the capital funds is $250,000,
Right.
right? We never had to get that, we amended the budget to have the capital fund, that was one of the reasons.
Right, and also because of legal fees, which reflect that.
legal fees were definitely one that we amended for, which I would say that we need, to have more discussion on. So that's why I would propose, or I would agree and recommend that we use the 2018-2019 budget as amended, because we thought those line items through at the same, almost at the same, in the same vein as we're doing a tentative budget tonight. I'm not saying one is more accurate than the other, because neither one of them is going to be accurate for this year's budget. That's what we're going to talk about at the workshop. So I would say, I would feel more comfortable with the 2018-19 budget than the actuals, because again, I don't remember where all of the swings were, and that makes me uncomfortable. On the 2018-2019 budget, I know that we spent a lot of time on most of the line items, And I feel more comfortable that we are in control of those line items more so than the actuals, because, you know, we get those reports every month to look at, but quite frankly, I just got this month's packet, like, you know, recently, because we're still, you know, we still have accruals and everything, so I haven't had the time to review and figure out where we stand, actual to budget. So that's why I'm saying the 2018-2019 budget, but I think that taking into account the 2018-2019 actual budget is actually where we need to start for comparison purposes between whatever we pass for tentative. If we don't pass the 2018-19 budget column, to where we end up for our 2019-20 budget.
I agree with you.
And that would be.
I got confused. Are we voting on the amended thing first?
So I guess we have to.
Unless it's withdrawn.
I'm going to withdraw it.
But
No.
the question would be is it the 2018-2019 budget as we originally set it without.
It's an amended, which is the column on the right.
Dana, I think, confirmed that she used the amended.
Right.
Yeah.
And our lawyer pointed out that most towns do use the amended as their next year tentative. Or what, I mean, they use their budget and ours is amended. Correct, Dana?
Yes. That way, if you go to the public hearing and you end up reducing it, the public's happy, usually. That, you know, they would rather see a change below what was out there than an increase at the public hearing.
In the amended one though, was that also reflecting those other expenses?
Yeah, as I look at this, you can confirm that, sorry, for yourself by looking at page 2, because there is a capital fund account
Right.
for 250, which we agreed on. So what I'm saying is just for ease and as a tentative budget, to go ahead and use the 2018-19 budget. I'm not saying that I, for one, am going to agree to pass this once we do our workshop, just as a tentative budget, because it was budgeted before.
I respectfully disagree because the actuals are actually, and I haven't told everything, but looking at every category, I think the actuals are actually less. So just it's in terms of looking at the budget versus the actuals, it was less. So that's why I was in favor of using the actuals until we determine.
Okay, let me just confirm that.
I mean, we can add it up. I also want to note that there's incorrect information. If you turn to page 10 of the side-by-side, and this is just one of the, excuse me, page 9. And then you turn to page 9 of the proposed. Okay, it matches up that it's 120,813. But in terms of what which is the total for home relief, contractual services, but the actual amended budget is very different for those categories. So if we were to use the amended budget, we would have to go back to the actual amended budget. Medical services was $114, it's shown as $13. Ambulance paramedic was $1, and that's the same. Client utilities, on the amended budget was $5,913, and And on this, it shows 7,570.
No, I think those are two different lines. I think that's ambulance paramedic service.
Right, they're totally different.
Okay, so what I'm saying
This
is,
one is tentative, but it's a work plan.
I actually have a copy of the amended budget that I pulled up, and I'm looking straight at that. So you don't have that in front of you probably right now? You do? Okay. So you have the home relief
What page are you on?
on page 9. And I found this to be the case for several different lines, and there were some additional categories put in here too. I kind of wanted to go through this page by page because they differ.
Okay, let me just make this easy because Carrie Lynn did me a favor because I pulled out my phone to calculate it. You're correct, Susan, the total of the 2018-2019 actuals is $5,010,323, so it is less. So, I mean, we have to start somewhere.
Right. But we are.
Making it actual, I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine, I
But
mean,
then
we're
you're
just,
gonna increase it though.
yeah, right, we will.
If we use the actual, then it's, yeah.
So then that, you're
And
going.
the only other discussion point, I think, is the one of the capital fund, because my understanding and the reason for approval of a capital fund was to use it for those expenses that are capital expenses that were not budgeted, not to use as a separate budget line item that we would, that was used for emergency purposes.
Yeah, but-
Do I have the understanding everybody else does?
I don't have the understanding that it's for emergency purposes,
No.
but
Well,
until you got
unexpected.
to emergency, I was with you. So yes, for capital.
Can I substitute the word
expenditures.
emergency for
Capital
unexpected?
improvement, we have an entire.
Yeah, it's not for unexpected, I would say it's the opposite.
Right.
If you remember when we came up with the 250,000,
Yes.
it was based on projects that we all agreed should be budgeted for in the next year or two. So
Right.
expected, not
Right.
unexpected, and not emergency, and that's
Okay.
my view of capital.
Anticipating.
Okay.
And we've done 2, we're about to do 2 more, all of which have been approved.
But my reason for saying that is,
Whether other factors prevented us from doing.
we would normally budget for things that are capital improvements that we need as a part of a budget, correct, Laura? And we would budget for that in a line item. We had some when I said unexpected, it's because we had some specific things last year that we came across with mold, et cetera, that we had a lot of work we had to address in an immediate situation. And so we didn't want to be caught unprepared or unable to accommodate those. We did the amendment to the budget to accommodate it. And I would like this for discussion.
I'm sorry.
So last year when this came up, we had concerns with mold and with, weather-related things, and we had projects that had to be done. And so it was, at that time, an emergency for us to be able to do an amended budget, to have the funds to be able to do that. And we also identified those funds. I think we identified those, those projects that were going to go into the capital fund, which is fine, great. And this year, I would expect that we would actually have line items for those items that we expect, not to just have a, open account for 250,000, not knowing what's going in that specifically, because I would think we'd be able to budget for things year after year, as opposed to just having, if we do have it, and then if we do have an urgent thing, emergency thing, we would use that 250.
Specific projects that were presented in order to have the capital fund voted on, the next spot, you voted it right.
Yes, and I agree with you.
So normally the way that the
Yes.
public bodies handle this,
And gotten to them because of the weather and decrease in personnel able to do them. So, like, one of the contracts that's out to bid that Karen is working on is for the parking lot completely being scraped down and and really done instead of just a facial thing so that seniors and handicapped people don't trip and employees and we don't have all these trauma claims. And that's estimated to be over 20,000, so that's going out to bid. That's part of capital fund number approved. That's one of the projects. One of the other projects is painting the building. And we have our 3 estimates, we have the starting date, that was previously approved. So it's not that we don't have those lined up. If that makes any sense.
So normally the way the public bodies would handle this is they would have a figure for the capital fund allocated in their budget, and then they would have a more fluid document like a capital improvement plan that they prepare annually with these 12 items, and okay, this year we didn't do those 4, so we're going to carry them over to next year, but then, oh wait, we need to do these other 3, and so, yeah, I mean, so I think that's how we could satisfy what you're seeking, Trustee Sweeney, which is that you want the background documentation showing what is intended for the capital fund to use, but we don't need that as line items actually in the budget. Would that satisfy what you're looking for?
Well, I would like to see the line items in the budget for those things that we know to be true and identify those as being capital fund projects that we use out of the budget. Out of the capital fund.
Yeah, it would be out of the capital
Yes.
fund.
That's what she's saying.
Okay.
We bring, the agreement on the capital fund is we had to bring everything to you. Like that was Claire made that motion.
Yes, and that was what I,
Right?
yes, that's exactly what I had expected and stated as well.
But it's not a problem. But I think you and Karen are saying the same thing.
Okay.
No, I think that what she's saying is that while they're paid under capital fund, if we're paying 10 items under them, she wants 10 different line items on the budget to show that. Well, then every year your budget would have to be amended to add new line items and take them off under the capital
Correct.
fund.
You have to do like, yes, that's why I thought was the whole purpose of doing the capital fund. And what we did, and I think I had requested more, Claire brought it down to 350 because she was rational and added everything up. And so I think it's a great idea to put on paper what hasn't been done, what's still in line to be done, what the total expected amount is. I'll tell you, sure. But I'm not saying, like, shouldn't this be discussed at the workshop?
Yes, it should be discussed at the workshop, but it is included in this. And
When we call the question of the amended, that Susan there did, I would call that question for the vote on her amendment.
Which would be to adopt a tentative budget using the 2018-19 actuals. the
yeah,
middle
that's the
column.
amended motion that I already made and Dave seconded.
Second.
Yeah, so that's what you're calling for the question on?
Yes.
Right, because they amended, so I want we have to vote on
Yes.
that before we vote on mine.
And I just want to be on record and make note that when we do have capital improvements in the next budget workshop that we have, that we'll discuss that and what those line items are to be included under capital. Make sense? Claire?
Well, I mean, our budget for our capital fund is still 250,000.
Good.
And under this, the column 2018-2019 actuals, that's totaling the 5,010,323. It doesn't include the 250, it includes what was spent of 17,000, which is, that is an example of what I was saying before of my concern using the actual column. It's not that I don't agree with you that actuals is a place to start, which is what I said, for a line item budgeting session, but for a tentative budget, in my view, I think that it's safer or more conservative or more comfortable for me to use the 2018-2019 budget because otherwise, if we're gonna use actuals as the starting point in
We
the
won't.
tentative
Right, I
budget,
see what you're saying.
we have
250 is
nowhere to go but up, because our capital fund number, we know is 250, and the only amount that's in here is 17. So already we know that we are going to, it's gonna look like we're increasing our tentative budget by over $200,000 when we're not. But that's gonna be the optics, for lack of a better word.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody, it's all transparent, this is just about numbers, but, you know, that's what's gonna happen if we pass a tentative budget using 2018, 2019 actuals.
That's correct.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't start with
Right.
the actual line item in the budgeting process. That is how we should do it, in my opinion. But this is,
Claire, 100%, but I think procedurally, definitely need to.
yes, but, I mean, I just want to make sure that I'm not saying the wrong thing here.
Okay.
I agree with you that in our workshop, we should look at the actual line item for building our budget. But this is just a tentative
I understand
budget.
your point, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with that because of the 250.
Okay,
But if we're saying that it is what the amended budget is, then we better go back and put the line items as were noted in the actual amended budget.
I agree.
So we do not have an actual amended budget that's identical. If this budget that was presented to us is different.
There
So I'm not prepared to sign
capital
this
funds
tonight.
have the specific projects in it. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, you said you have the amended budget, right?
No, she's not saying, you're not saying to add line items. She's saying that the amended budget is not, it's not matching up.
I have the amended budget right here.
And she's
So
saying it
as
doesn't
one
match.
example, there's more because there's additional categories we put in this. Like we budgeted for some new things and then we put, you know, like we added some additional line items in this and what Dana presented here.
So what page are you
There,
on?
but if, just as a, for example, go to page 9, home relief, and the contractual services.
Hold on.
Can we just look at the total first? So what's the total amended budget? Is it 5421? Okay, so we know that the total matches, right? Page
Right.
10 of 11, total matches what we have on page 10 of our tentative proposal,
Yeah.
the most tentative. So if the line items don't match, maybe we can work with Vicki and Dana to,
Your amended service and client utilities were flipped. Erroneously flipped. So I've got a note for her to rewrite that, so if you want to note that, what you're going to pass, the correct number for client utilities and
what page?
on page 9,
Yeah, that's,
yeah, they're.
Emergency assistance was 1,200, not 1,150. And food essentials was 33,887, not 42,555.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
Just go down.
Is
I
that
mean,
page 9?
there's more than just this, but this was the most obvious one.
Wait, are you looking at the amended or the actual?
This is the actual amended that's off the website.
And I think all these
This is what Dana presented.
Which one are you talking about now?
I'm just comparing them side by side. So
What are you comparing?
page 9,
Of?
home relief.
no, the actual,
Um,
it's the actual amended
This is the
budget that's
amended budget.
posted,
This is what Dana gave
what
us.
Dana gave us. That's right.
And she gave it to us two different ways. She gave it to us in a side-by-side comparison on page 9, which that also differs. So forget the side-by-side, because we're talking about, just look at the one that we're expected to sign.
Talking about apples and oranges.
No, I'm
No,
not.
those are red, yes, needs to be changed.
Vicky's, yeah, right, I'm not talking about apples and oranges.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
Vicky's
the
fine.
actual
Shelter rent should be 71,102.
What page are you on?
On page 9,
Uh-huh.
it's on page 9 of both the original and
Yes, correct.
what-
Shelter rent is 71,102, and shelter rent on what we're expected to sign is 64,282. The food essentials should be 33,887, and it's showing us 555.
So are all these wrong?
Prescription drugs,
That one's right.
yeah, prescription drugs, our amended approved was 2,693. On here, it's 1,158. The catastrophic medical insurance was approved at 4,200. Here, it's $4,081.
Well, no, the budget is 119,246.
Right.
Oh, yeah, what she's saying, she has the actual amended budget. So if we get the
Yeah,
actual
that's
budget,
correct.
it's gonna adopt. Yeah.
Right, that's.
So
This was the original.
So it would be the actual amended budget, that's the correct one. We're gonna say, if we stipulate that it's the correct one, right? It's posted on the website.
Right.
But that was the
Then
original
that would, because then we could disregard the other one that we were provided by Dana. That would be part of the stipulation that we go with the.
So,
This was the original, that was the original amendment.
That was what the original motion was,
Yeah,
right?
original. So we
Right,
withdraw
they-
your motion then?
Yes, but we can't sign this, Kim, is what I'm saying, because this is not accurate, so it's gotta be fixed. So we fixed it, that's
So
fine.
we're not
We amended that
gonna,
budget.
we're not
Right.
gonna vote to
So-
accept that, we're gonna start with
Right.
this one.
So to clarify, what would happen is that, unless I'm wrong, Susan, Trustee Sweeney would withdraw her motion.
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie, motion would be to use the amended budget, the correct amended
Right.
budget. That would, the amendment be changed here with the correct amended budget.
Well, but,
and we all agree that that totals $5,421,012,
Yeah.
correct?
and that's what the supervisor's motion originally was.
Right, that was.
She wasn't saying vote on the one in front of us, she said vote on the act.
Which, for that clarification, right, because that's where the problem, one of the problems was.
And so what the subtotal would be, instead of 4,800 and 2,798, which is on page 10, that would be stricken, and what we would sign is one that would reflected the actual
No, we're
amount,
just
which was
gonna vote on the
4,500.
amended budget.
4,590,121.
Yeah, you don't need to sign anything tonight. You can just take the former
Right,
amended
you just-
budget, put
The
tentative.
actual
and
correct
post it.
one.
That's all you have to
The
do.
actual correct
Right.
one.
There's a
Okay,
ordinance 2018-1
Right,
with the amended budget passed on 8/28/18.
that's the one we're passing.
Okay,
That's one.
I mean, that's what we.
I am going to modify my amendment because I would do that one. The general assistance fund portion of the total budget should reflect what you actually budgeted for, the 618,330, not the 830,000. If we sign that other, then you're accounting for 830,891.
Where are you now?
Okay,
Page 10.
page 10 of the original amendment, which you guys do not have, original amended budget, says the general assistance fund is 830,891. We know that we're probably going to spend 618.
We're gonna go down.
It's the same
We're
number.
gonna do that in our workshop.
Right,
Right.
But,
exactly.
so you're going to be 200,000 off on what you put on the website for general
Well,
assistance?
we're gonna be
This is a
200.
I don't think so.
tentative budget. It's a tentative
It's a
budget.
I'm sorry, I gotta go one at a time.
30% off of the price. That's not in the budget amount. That's ridiculous. We have to have a more accurate general assistance budget. We shouldn't put something on the website that says we're going to spend 830,000 if we only are proposing that we spend 618,000. I think that general assistance should reflect what we actually
Well,
are budgeting for as
Then
opposed to what,
would it be Claire's motion with the one modification that the general assistance amount would reflect the 618?
Yeah, I would make an amendment to the original to pass this budget with using the general town fund amount of $4,590,121, which is $4,590,121.
Second amendment?
We don't know.
This is a revised, I'm withdrawing the First Amendment because okay, I am making an amendment,
But
That-
she just changed her amendment.
She's withdrawing the first
and
amendment.
I'm putting this amendment
We're
to
very
modify
close.
the total so that the town fund is $4,590,121, which
4
equals
million.
which equals what last year's amended budget is, which addresses the 250,000 as capital fund that's included in that. So that's 4,590,000. And the general assistance fund, we use as an amended budget for 618,330. And that would more accurately reflect what the tentative budget should
That's
reflect.
my proposed budget. That is not the amended budget from last year.
Okay.
Again,
Let's pull it up off the
No, I
website.
think-
Wait. No, I have it.
Wait.
I'm trying to use this. Okay, so, look. I'm gonna pull out my accountant card here. You cannot compare apples to oranges. You cannot dissect one part of a proposed budget and say, oh, that's more accurately reflected, because we don't know sitting here what items were moved around and shifted, because you obviously see a shift, okay? So you can't pick and choose, you can't cherry pick the lower GA and lower town fund. That's not gonna work. So these are the three columns that make the most sense. You're either gonna go left, middle, or right. Okay, those are the best options. We can switch things around and talk about line items when we get to our workshop. And we can go further deep into what these numbers, where the source of these numbers come from and why there's a shift. But, I mean, I just want to explain that to you. I see where you're going, I understand it. I mean, I want a lower budget too, but I also want a realistic budget. And so this is a tentative budget, and remember that when we do our final budget, we're still going to have to talk about why we're differing from the tentative budget. And so if you artificially lower the tentative budget by something that's not realistic, now we're going to be explaining more than we otherwise would have to. Makes no sense to me. You're just complicating things. We know where these three columns come from. So either you're in the camp where you're going to go the 2018-2019 budget, as I explained why that makes sense, or you're going to do actuals, that's what you had proposed originally, or you're going to agree with the tentative budget that was presented to us, that's the left-hand column. So what's on the table right now, I believe, is the motion from Laura, seconded by, I believe, Kim, to pass the right-hand column. Now, there's mistakes in this right-hand column. The total is correct, but it is not accurate as to the line item numbers.
But the motion wasn't to pass the right column, the motion was to pass the right budget, which is
Correct.
So as long as that
Okay,
is
so now
passed.
what is your current amendment? Because I've lost track, so I want to make sure we know
Well,
what we're...
I understand why you're saying you don't want to mix, okay?
Mhm.
I actually don't think the total is going to be correct, because the actual town fund budget last year, if we stay similar to what we were, at $4,590,000. And if you add to that what we probably will have, if this is correctly budgeted for general assistance, we would add 618 to that. So it's, I understand it's for the budget workshop. I understand that, you know, we can talk about that in more detail, but we're going to be coming down, we should technically be coming down significantly from that number.
What number?
Why is that there?
Because first of all, we've got $4,800,000 instead of $4,500,000 that we're budgeting.
Well, we're coming down.
And, right, the $4,500,000 was what we did last year, so we want to stay close to what we budgeted last year.
No,
Oh,
that's the
you know.
original budget, then we
And our actuals are even lower than that. So, and the general assistance fund will come down to 618, which you are reflecting here. So, but there should be another 200,000 or so.
Claire, what's the amendment on the table?
That's what I'm
So,
asking.
I will just go with the budget, but the original, and withdraw my amendment.
Because it's my understanding you're withdrawing the amendment because of the clarification made by trustee McKenzie, that we're going to be using the actual numbers, the correct numbers, that properly reflect what that column
The
is.
amended budget.
The amended budget. With that correction,
Yes.
not the one that we were given,
Well,
the correct one.
I did, in all fairness, I referred to that third column, but that's not what we're,
That
so,
wasn't my motion. My motion was to pass an amended budget.
Yes.
so as amended and passed on August 28th, 2018.
Yes.
Correct.
And that's on the website already.
That is on the website already, and public.
Okay, so
I
that's,
will just go, I'd like to just make one other comment. I'd like to be just on record as saying that the general assistance fund should technically come down by, over $200,000. So there's a little bit of a concern I have. I will go with supporting an amended budget that we previously passed and equaling that, but our general assistance fund is going to come down 200,000 plus. So I think it's a little bit, I don't know if disingenuous is the right thing. We're just we're in an urgent situation that this has to be passed tonight. So it is tentative, and so knowing it's tentative, I will agree to it, but I would have a preference to want to see the general assistance fund reflected as what is actually proposed, which is to spend $618,000. You went through a lot of time to go through the line items in general assistance to come down to $618,000 because we lost one of the employees. So we know we're going to be saving significant money. We're not going to be spending $800,000. And honestly, because our ratio of administrative costs is so high compared to our expenses, I think it just highlights what we're actually providing for service in general assistance. It doesn't look good. So I would rather, put out a general assistance budget that shows a more accurate reflection of what we intend to budget for. But that would require, us to use, as Claire said, the general assistance budget using the budgeted proposed, and then mixing that with, which I don't know why you can't do it, but I'll take your word as an accountant, it looks like it's intermixing things. The town fund with the amendment. Both of these are going to change anyway.
right, that's right.
And the clarification, the point that you made, that we're going to use the actual one off the website, the one that was actually passed, signed by us, most correct numbers.
This is it.
Not those line items in the column. Then I think that
Well, we can actually use this, is that okay?
Yeah,
We
yes.
can make a copy, it's right here, it's on the website, it is amended budget passed on 8/28/18 for a total
Can you pass it down so I can look at it and see what that is?
Well, we already did it.
521.
$5,421,012.
Right.
Okay,
right off the website.
all right, let's call the question.
Oh, so we have that,
So that,
that's the same motion that Laura made it.
Yes.
Seconded?
Yeah.
Well,
There's only
40
one
minutes.
motion on the table, right?
With that change,
I know which one, 28, yes.
with that change.
Okay,
No, there's
There
no
wasn't a change.
There's no change.
That's what she meant. She
Right, is
clarified.
what there was a reference that we use the numbers that are in that column, we're not going to use the numbers.
I referenced it,
Right.
but Laura did not. But she's clarifying that she wasn't using
I
my.
referenced the August one on the website.
Great.
Right.
Okay.
There's no
But that
change.
changed. You guys are withdrawing the amendment.
It's already done.
It's withdrawn.
Yes, yes.
All right, Supervisor Moran,
Yeah.
Trustee McKenzie,
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes, and for clarification, what was on the website for the general town fund is $4,590,121, and for the general assistance fund, it's $830,891, with total appropriations of $5,421,012. And we do anticipate the general assistance fund for what's been tentatively recommended as a budget, but will be discussed during the budget workshop, will be reduced significantly.
Thank you. Okay, so we got that done. Okay, next is the adoption of the tentative budget for highway for public inspection. We need a motion.
Motion to approve, or to adopt the tentative budget for highway for public inspection.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion is to adopt a tentative budget for road fund using the numbers from, I missed the.
Volunteer.
Yes.
I composed a budget that I intend on being the starting point for discussion when we have this workshop. It reflects lower labor costs, it shores up some underfunded line items. This is what I would use as an opening gambit to start discussions when we have the workshop and the final vote. So everybody got that in the packet. That's what I think should be voted on, not last year's budget or some other.
So which one you want to?
Well, the one that was submitted in the packet.
So that's what we're.
Yeah. And the way you made that motion, Trustee Jones, that was sufficient.
Oh, okay, sorry, that's, okay.
So,
Okay, so just,
I seconded Wall and put it forward.
Okay.
so now just to be clear,
$2 million.
the total appropriations in accordance with Wally's proposal is $1,984,707,
That's
correct?
Yes.
Okay, you also have an asterisk with road improvement fund of 400.
yeah, that's going to be subject to debate. I tried to do that last August and didn't get the votes. And what I intend on doing, there's an inventory of unincorporated streets that's being conducted now. And when we set that workshop date, there'll be somebody explaining, why we need that $400,000 in the road improvement fund, which comes off the surplus, for one thing, and we can perhaps increase our, over the course of 3 years, we could increase our expenditures on road maintenance by about $135,000, $140,000 a year. And you could do a lot more streets and sidewalks with that extra money. But that's for a later date, and there'll be a detailed explanation of that.
So you're only asking us to approve
Just to have it on file at the clerk's office.
But you have an asterisk, and it was not approved before, so you're not asking us tonight to.
No, we're not.
So we can cross that 400,000 out, correct?
No, he's asking for that to be in the budget, and he's saying at the workshop, he's going to give you the projects that's coming out of it.
Yeah,
Like I did with Gecko Fund.
right. So this reflects what I want as at least as a discussion point or a starting point. And it's not etched in stone in any manner, as we're all aware. But I don't think we have to go back to last year's actuals or last year's budget, because this is more of a reflection of what I want in those budgets. And in all honesty, you could file a different budget, but the next day or two I'll file this one, and this will be the one we'll discuss. So, you can make.
I'm sorry?
You can make changes, you submit a budget, but the person can submit a revised budget. If there's an error, before the vote, I think last year I had 4 different budgets I submitted to the clerk's office before one was finalized. So, I want to go with this one because it's a reflection of what I want discussed, and it's a good starting point. It's within almost like a few $1,000s of what was expended last year, or what was allocated last year, so, this is the one I prefer to have voted on.
But it's not within a few thousand of last year if you look at the $400,000
No,
asterisk number that you
okay,
have.
here's the thing, if you recollect in August, I tried to pass an amended budget, and part of it was this $400,000 road improvement fund.
I
It
know,
failed.
right.
So,
But now you're putting it on here with no further explanation or
it
approval.
doesn't need explanation until the workshop.
I don't agree, but that's just me, so I'll open it up to, is there a second on, did you make a motion?
I make a motion.
Kim motion, Morrison.
Okay, so is there discussion? Okay, Ms.
Yeah, I would recommend that we just, in light of that it's open for discussion later, that we just strike that line of the road improvement fund.
Well, I'm gonna put it back in before the workshop, so.
Yeah, it's
know.
on your side by side, which is fine, so we can have a discussion about that. But in terms of what we signed for a,
No, there is no signature here, that's been explained.
Yeah.
There is no signature.
okay.
You're not approving anything, you're just, this is a starting point for discussion at the final board meeting and the workshop.
He's just saying it'll be more transparent to include the 400 since he's actually going to ask you for that.
And it's gonna be more thoroughly explained in detail once this inventory of our unincorporated districts is completed.
Okay, so,
If I may.
Yes, trustee Fairwell.
Thank you. So what you're proposing as a tentative budget is compared to actuals spent last year, you're increasing your budget by over 148,000. And not correct, so that's the few thousand we're talking about.
70,000 accrued expenditures are not included at 1.8 something million dollars.
Right, so, but
It
It's
comes
not-
to
can
about
you explain that?
1.930.
can you explain what's not included in the 1,800,000?
just so everybody, and I'll interrupt you, just so everybody understands, the actual spending from last year was $1,836,899, and what you're proposing here is $1,984,707.
Okay,
Just so we
Two
understand.
factors, one, there's 70,000 accrued expenditures is not included in that 1.8 something million. And secondly, this is not voted on today. I mean, if, no matter how you feel about those numbers, something has to be put on file.
Right, we understand
So, I think this is a good starting point. I don't think it's outrageous. I'm not coming with
So
some
these are
point.
accrued expenditures, flagged, and they're not reflected in actual because we haven't paid them yet, they're due?
Well, they've been paid by now, probably in March,
But they weren't in
they weren't included in
in the
that.
budget numbers.
Isn't that correct?
For the fiscal year.
Is it one of those ones that were paid, the municipal paid today?
Maybe a couple were, but probably a majority in March.
And again, that number was what, 70?
Well, I don't have, it's approximately $70,000.
Okay, so it would be $1,836,899 plus 70,000 we would expect to see under
Yeah.
actuals that are really
Right.
spent.
Wait, I just want to be clear, so Denise, does that mean you did not include $70,000 in the spreadsheets that you gave us for road and bridge that came in and were paid in March that were supposed to be accrued for last year?
Anything that happened in March that was, anything that I paid in March, those numbers went back into February.
That's what I thought you said last month.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
one,
I mean, if I'm paying a bill in March and April, but it's a February expense, it went back into February.
well, I have to look at the highway report because those, the second page includes all the accrued bills. And
Well, right, but all of those accrued bills are in February, they're in accounts payable that are going to be paid in March.
I'll check into that and talk to you about it tomorrow. But, like it's been
Yeah,
said,
but they were put back in February.
this is just a start off point. If some things have to be changed, they'll be changed next month.
What does that mean?
Okay,
What does it mean? It means that we're having a workshop. This is on file, and it can be altered.
I think I can answer the question. So I had my February statement, so this is through year end, at the end of February, and the year-to-date disbursement for expenses was $1,900,991. So that does explain about the, $65,000 that you're referencing. So that the actual number that was in through the February, end of February, through the end of our fiscal year, $1,900,911. Or we can look at the supervisor's report, which would be probably the most accurate, which we just put on.
When I gave you your numbers, I pulled your,
Well,
I pulled your.
I'll bring the
February
highway
report.
commissioner report tomorrow and see.
Yeah, no, I pulled the financial from February when I plugged in the numbers. So they would have been back in there. It should be right.
Including ones like.
When you asked me to do side by sides, I went back and pulled the February income statement and plugged in actions. And thanks for those stuff.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes. Well, one of the things that I just wanted to ask Wally, is I was going to look on this and see if it's on the supervisor. Just to prepare for then the budget workshop, you have the equipment that we're going to be discussing next up on the agenda for sale. So maybe the estimation of that would be, rough estimate should be factored into the revenue side?
Well, it definitely will be.
Okay.
Because the equipment figure would be a much higher figure if we weren't selling all of our equipment.
But that would be a good idea to include that in the revenues, that we're going for. And then
how it's reflected is $225,000 for equipment. If we weren't selling all of that, it would probably be $100,000 more. We should, just that snow blower alone is probably worth $70,000.
So we expect an inflow of
yeah.
revenue and to have that item.
This will probably be the last year we're going to move this type of equipment because we're not going to be looking for things on auction like we were in the past. We just have tractors and trailers and front end loaders and the big ticket items are the sweeper and the snow blower that should get us over $100,000 in revenue that can be applied towards equipment.
Okay, so thank you for including that in.
But I really, the statute doesn't allow me to put down this is worth 10,000, that's worth 12.
So you can't estimate that revenues come in?
Well, it has been done in a sense, because the figure, as I said, would have been much higher than 225. And we had nothing to sell, there would be nothing coming in, no revenue coming in from the sale of this dispersal of equipment.
Okay, and the next issue is, what is the ERI cost under the IMR? Is that the employee? Maybe that's an employee.
Early retirement incentive.
Oh.
That's what
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But that's probably going all the way back 10 or 12 years.
And then just an explanation of the engineering services. I know we're going to talk about this, but it's a $40,000 budget, but last year you actually saved
why.
$6,000. So.
Here's why, because Aqua had a $53,000 bill that we paid up front to the engineering firm, and they reimbursed us. So that goes into the engineering fund. That's why you have a surplus in that particular line item. But this year, as far as I know, Aqua isn't doing any kind of major project that will require extensive engineering fees. So from various tax entities and utilities for reimbursement on engineering fees, and I don't think we're going to have the major influx of reimbursement like we had last year.
Ready to call the roll?
I would like to propose a motion for an amendment to Wally's proposed road fund budget to not include the $400,000 road improvement fund, and to make sure that these numbers that are on these pages 1 through 6 are accurately reflected in the summary page on 7. I've gotten through number 3, I'm trying to look for number 4 right now.
I'd second.
It is reasonable to conclude that I can just insert that anytime I want, so it can be discussed. You know, you can, I guess you can remove it, but I can insert it back in, so I don't know what that accomplishes.
We still have to get it passed.
Well, sure, and I intend to make a case for it.
Okay, good.
Should we call the vote on the amendment?
I'm just making sure these numbers match up. Okay, so. I'm just trying to add up the numbers before I tell you the total. Okay. So my amended motion is to have a tentative road district budget for 2019-20 of a total of $1,984,707, made up of the summary items 1 through 6 noted on page 7 of Wally's proposed tentative budget. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Call the roll. Supervisor Marask?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
I mean, it's kind of 6 of one, half of the other, because you could just put it back in, so. So I'm not really sure why we're doing that.
Because
Yeah,
it still needs to pass, and we
Yeah,
have got
but we do
zero,
that at the
zero.
workshop.
What is-
But we
what's-
had to do
what's
that
the
at
vote?
workshop,
Just
so.
vote.
This vote, the vote's been called.
Yeah.
Well, I'm explaining, I mean, I can explain why.
Yeah, section 3 of the Illinois Municipal Budget Law doesn't require the township board to vote on this. It requires the highway commissioner to establish a tentative budget and file with the clerk. So you guys can vote however you want, but he can file whatever he wants with the clerk, and that's what gets posted. So I think that's what he's
So
saying.
this is not a vote, right?
Well, just get
Yeah,
the
you
process.
can finish.
Yeah, finish, to get the process going, and I'll do what I want.
I don't understand what
Are you
is it?
suggesting, Carrie Lynn, that you
So
shouldn't take a
we're
vote
voting
at all?
on her.
You don't need to, because it's not the function of the township board to vote on it. It's the highway commissioner has to give his tentative budget to the clerk for posting 30 days in advance.
So
There's not
should we
board
just take
approval.
this off the agenda then? Because if we don't vote on it.
No.
You can't, I mean, you can. You can't because there's not town board action required on it.
But are you saying if we vote, then what happens?
He can still file whatever he wants because the board isn't required to vote
Not
on
required to
his
vote,
budget.
so.
So we're not required to vote in the original motion either, the tentative budget?
No, the one for the township, the board approves the for posting.
Okay.
The one for the road district, the highway commissioner gives to the township clerk for posting.
So we didn't even need that item on the agenda.
No, but I think he wanted to present it to show you what he's submitting,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's transparent.
Okay.
But there's not a vote
It
required.
just says, but it does say adoption, right? So that's not correct.
It's just adopted by those department.
Well, I mean, so if I don't have to
It's a
vote,
formality.
So we're not adopting, the trustees aren't submitting it.
am I,
If we don't vote, then the trustees aren't adopting.
So
it.
that shouldn't have been
So
voted.
that should,
That doesn't need to be
So,
voted.
okay, so then I move to withdraw my original motion. To
And I'll
adopt.
withdraw my second.
Okay,
Okay.
and,
Okay,
And I'll just file this tomorrow.
okay, all right.
All right.
okay.
Call roll on the withdrawal.
no,
No, we're good. Okay.
Okay, so next is Resolution 2019-RB-2 to dispose of equipment. Do we have to vote on that?
No, this is a resolution of the highway commissioner.
So we don't vote on this.
No.
Okay, so Wally, do you want to present?
Well, it has to be signed.
Yeah, no, this one still, it can be presented by the highway commissioner, but this one to vote on it, sorry.
Okay.
So, but at the top where it says resolution of the highway commissioner, it's really the township.
so that should be corrected.
Yeah, it should be, yeah, it should be a resolution of the township because the board does not vote on resolutions of the highway commissioner.
Or you delete that, we'd also delete that second line, Maine Township Road District, that gets deleted off.
No, because the statute says the road district can do it by vote of the board, but it's not a resolution of the highway commissioners of the board. So tell me the title, it's incorrect.
Just resolution of the township, Maine Township Road District.
So you're saying there's no need for the resolution?
Yeah, there is.
Yes, the title's just incorrect. So it should just be a resolution of the township.
Oh, it's resolution of the township board.
Can you read the whole thing? Resolution of the township, and then what's the second line?
For road district.
For road district?
That's correct. The resolution, the word, the whereas clause is correct, it's only the title that's wrong.
Should we make the resolution, the township resolution, as in without RB?
Yes.
Yes? So there will be number two, because I don't remember what number it's going to be.
We already have a 3.
We have more than that, because we had the main annual town meeting. I think it's 5. I can check it. Should I?
Okay, so it's going to read resolution of the township for road district.
No, the Maine Township Board.
Resolution of the Maine Township Board
For Maine Township Road District.
for Maine, for,
No, it's just a resolution of the Maine Township Board, that's all.
period, okay, good, get rid of everything else.
Establish a road district.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Township resolution is 4. 2019.
And then.
We have the resolution right here. We can make those changes here. Somebody has that?
Should be here.
This one.
Oh,
So we have.
So it should be resolution number 2019-4. No RB.
No, RB, this is the township part.
Any discussion?
Are you going to present first, or?
No.
Okay.
So
I just would like to,
Excuse me, I'm just asking, somebody made a motion? Because
Did anyone make a motion to
No, I
approve
guess
it?
we didn't.
No,
Okay.
so we need a motion.
Motion for so are we voting on it, or are we motion to?
Approve the resolution.
Thank you. Motion to approve the resolution 2019-4 to dispose of equipment.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I just, I guess I'd like to start just by, if you're going through these, or if you can, I would like to know the years. You've identified a few years, the 2016 snow blower, the 2006 sweeper, the 2003 Ford. Can you tell me the years of the other things that we're selling, the front end loader?
I really don't know if these were bought at auction. I'm not sure if they knew the years. I think the foreman would have put the years on there. Some are in better condition than others, and they'll warrant a better auction price or sale price, but part of the years
Okay.
are probably, they're probably not, they're used, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And
Okay, well, just in general, so it would be helpful to know those things because okay, so we're selling a 2016 snow blower, so that's a couple of years old. Why did we buy it and why are we selling it?
Well, interesting story. Before I came on board, it was ordered. I was shocked when maybe I was 3 months into the job and this gigantic machine that really meant for plowing Woodfield's parking lot or some O'Hare one-way. If you actually used it on the side streets, they blow the people's windows up. I don't know why it was purchased, except as like a vanity piece or something.
Do you know how much that was purchased for new?
$111,000. But I had nothing to do with it. I mean, I certainly hope I would have objected to that had I been there, because it's just not practical for narrow side streets. And, they would literally damage property if it was actually in use on some of these narrow side streets. So it really should go. And we've been quoted 70 or 80,000. And, it's not a smart deal, obviously, after 2 or 3 years. You're not going to get what you paid for it, but that's the reality now. There's no reason for us to have it. If snow would get and how it happens, I don't even know. We'd have to lease it out to somebody else because we couldn't use it.
Wally, are some of this equipment, does it go by the hours of use, like an airplane or boat? Is that maybe why they didn't put the years on it?
Well, some of the,
Because,
there's some that
some
have hours.
like a boat or an airplane, you don't really go by a year. You always go by how many hours it's used. So is that?
But based on prior sales of these front end loaders, we get 12 to 17,000 a piece for them refurbished. So that's pretty much what you can expect, with any kind of luck, maybe somewhere between 10 and 17,000. And they were purchased at a much lower price. And this is the end of this buying and selling of equipment. Former director helped replenish some of the equipment fund, and he was adept at auctioneering and figuring out how to obtain things at a cheaper price on auction and selling at a maximum price. But I think we're going to get rid of this stuff, and I don't think, at least in my tenure, you're not going to see half a dozen items that are for sale anymore. Three or four at the most.
The last item, the Ford 4610 tractor and mower. There's no year on that. That would have a year, wouldn't it?
Well, you know,
I mean, it was May, they would say it 2016.
yeah, I can find out, but it doesn't, it shouldn't impede the passage of this because, you know, we'd like to start getting rid of some of the stuff in May.
Were you surprised by any other equipment that was ordered?
No, this is all old stuff. The only thing that I felt was impractical from the get-go was the snow blower.
Okay, so the other things are pre-2016?
Oh, without a doubt.
And what do you estimate the total value of this to be? You said 12 to 17,000 each for
Well,
front loaders and 111,000
You know,
for
the
snow.
crosswind sweeper would be 20,000. The dump truck, and I could just be guessing, the front end loaders based on prior experience, you know, about 12 to 17. Demo bucket, you know, is a marginal item that shouldn't be too much money. The snow blower, I would say it could garner 70 to 80,000. And I'd be guessing on the tractor more.
And what did you say for the dump truck and the demo bucket?
Well, the dump truck, I'd have to rely on somebody else's expertise. It's an old vehicle, 2003.
Unless there's more discussion, I just want to bring it back to the motion to pass this resolution to sell or dispose of surplus vehicles and equipment.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it overall. It looks like about 200,000 or
Well, I think somewhere under
for
that.
budgeting purposes for the next.
I'd say between 125 and 150. But that'd help out a lot.
Okay.
Did you call the question?
I was just about to ask if we could call the question.
Supervisor Morass?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is lawn service proposal renewal contract term, April 2019 through November 2019. And we have a 2019 lawn service proposal from All Season Maintenance, Inc., dated January 8th, 2019, for a total monthly lawn service of $1,350, April through November. Includes spring cleanup, fifth service visits, seasonal trimming, and core aeration and overseed additional $350, disposal charge of fall cleanup material of $250. Does anybody want to make a motion to?
Yes, I'll make a motion to pass the All-Season Maintenance Inc. 2019 lawn service proposal from April to November for $1,350 a month.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Kim seconded it. Any discussion?
Yes, I just have questions. Laura, how long have we had All Seasons? Is this are they?
We've had them for quite a few years, and then last year I asked Mike to see if we can, find anything better or worse, whatever. He went out, looked at different, nobody responded. And All Seasons is pretty low. I mean, it's not, for what you're getting, it's a very fair price.
Are you saying you went out to bid then to other vendors as well?
Are you here, Dory?
I'm going to get Mike, because he can answer this question.
Yeah, Dorian is here.
I think, is Mike there?
Yeah, Mike.
Mike is coming back in the room.
To the hall? Okay. I'm not sure how many years
Well, I've been here 10 years, and we've had them for 10 years, so.
We've had them since, I believe it was 1999, we found the file in the first office.
1999.
1999 was when we originally.
Yes.
Anisha, why do we have two of these contracts? I'm
It's
sorry.
just the same ones that sometimes we.
But we also have a person from Maine, so, right? Never filled that.
I couldn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Any other discussion on the lawn service proposal?
Michael,
What did you say about the competitive? We were silence at the same time. I thought.
We went out to the just to see like where the prices were at. We had about 3 or 4 companies and not one got back to us. So we've had this company since 1999 and I've had nothing to say about them.
Did you, when you said you had 3 or 4 other companies, that you called or did you post it or?
No, we companies that we called, they'd actually come out, I walked them around the building, said what we were looking for, and basically just the same thing. And not one got back to me on it.
Okay, what is our normal policy for bidding? Laura, can you comment on that? Like,
I couldn't hear anything.
oh, I'm just asking about our bidding process.
This isn't a bid, it's not over 20,000 from April to November, 1,000.
Well, I know, but we had talked before just about, generally speaking, good business practice. You know, this is obviously.
Why are we just, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Where's bidding coming?
We had talked about,
I don't know, I thought we were talking about the lawn service proposal.
we are,
Okay, so it's under 20,000.
yes,
yeah, it's a total of about 7,000.
Right.
so it didn't go out to bid.
No,
Yeah, it wouldn't go, it's under 20 grand, so I wouldn't go up to
it's
that.
coming to you guys for approval.
I understand, I just think we talked about this before, and I think it's good
We
business
did.
process.
Nobody called it back.
To allow for it.
Right.
It's not required, I understand that, I just wanted to know if we did it. I thought we would post the opportunity for people to respond to a bid if they wanted to, that we had, but that wasn't done.
So I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Susan suggested that it maybe should have been posted for others to bid, but
It's not that kind of thing.
No, it's not mandatory, but whether or not it's a good business practice, I think, is the
I
core.
mean, it's posted with the board packet and on the website.
and it's under the threshold that is part of the policy of $20,000.
Right.
Okay, anything else? Call the question?
Supervisor Marasк?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. And Lori.
Next, we are going to select the date for our special budget workshop. So we have to have the budget passed by the end of May. So I think that we should start looking at dates the second and third weeks of May.
How's May 14th? It's only a few weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I could do that day.
everybody could get their questions in today, right?
It's not ideal for me, but
Is there a better day?
the 15th is actually better for me. I don't know if that's,
fine.
how does the 15th?
The assessor has your program.
The 15th, they have a program here,
In both
Over
rooms.
there, Moyer.
in both rooms, upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
How,
20th is real.
isn't it getting too late?
It's
in a row.
13 and getting that's a redo. How about the 8th?
About the 8th?
It's good.
Yeah, the 8th works for me.
How does the 8th look?
Yeah, better early than
It's
that.
not a great day for me.
Okay. You said the 13th?
Yeah, on the 7th, I mean, I know.
13th.
The 13th is not great for me.
What about the 7th then?
7th I can do.
Or the 9th?
You know what, let's just do the 14th. Was I the only one who had something on the 14th?
Yeah, but is it a problem?
That's all right, I will suck it up and.
Thank you.
What time
I
is
mean,
that?
does that work?
I'm gonna have to make it work.
Well, I mean, we can try the 16th, we can try.
16th I
I mean, it would give us more time when we did it like the 7th or 8th, 9th.
The 16th, I have something at night. I'm available Friday the 17th.
I can do that.
I'm available on Friday.
Did you say you're not the 7th or the
I
9th?
don't know that I'm going or.
What about the 7th or the 9th?
7th, Rich has a big program at night in the boardroom.
Oh, that's the one, okay.
So then
And the 9th?
Development.
That's the 7th and the 8th, he does?
No, the 7th is no.
What about the 9th?
9th is good. I mean, the
Right.
boardroom is available on the 9th.
You would- Okay.
Claire doesn't grab.
Okay, I'm good. 14th.
14th? Okay.
What time would that be for?
May 14th at 7 or 6:30?
7.
I mean, you know what's fine with me?
7 o'clock.
Let's do 7.
7, okay.
May 14th.
Mm-hmm.
7:14.
And I ask that anybody who has anything to provide additional support, your $400,000 road fund number, any capital fund items, that we get those in advance of the workshop by at least a week. Is that acceptable?
Just for the same list of the capital fund, like next week. Or the week of the 6th.
Week of the 6th.
I could do that probably by, I'll be back Monday the 29th. I can probably do that by Thursday or Friday the 9th of the 9th. Like a regular, agenda day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure I could provide some.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, it's gonna be a full week, is what I'm saying. I can try to do it. It's like 6 days, so. I mean, it's only gonna be like 8 to 10 days. It's not gonna be that hard to digest.
Well, there's a lot of shifts in the budget, so any shifts.
Well, I'm talking about the capital fund.
Yeah, but I mean, anything else that, line items that have not been discussed, we're gonna need the support for that a week before, if you want us to, or at least if you want me to, have enough time to digest it and analyze it. I don't know about the others, but I asked for a week. Can we agree on that?
Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
you have to let me know what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to let me and Dana and Vicki know what you want.
Okay, well, I can speak for myself. With respect to actuals, the actual column, I have that with Denise's spreadsheets. I don't have support for the line items that were in the 2019-20 tentative budget column. So if anybody wants at least me to consider, analyze, and be prepared to consider an increase to a line item, I'm asking for support for that. Because
I would
otherwise,
agree.
I'm not doing the research, I'm not asking any more questions, I'm not sending emails. If I don't have it, I'm not considering it. If I have it, I will consider it.
What format would you like that in? Would you like that in like a spreadsheet where like there's the number and then that, like there's the numbers in the column and there's a column, the next row is the description, or would you like a supporting documents? How would you prefer? Both?
They're
Okay.
going to walk now, are going to salary and health insurance, so they're going to be a placeholder for that. So they're, I'll put a little memo, only report.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's some.
I would like to join the Trustee McKenzie.
Oh, there's no motion. You can have anything you want.
We want the information provided for,
I'm not, okay, I got it.
before,
Okay.
in advance.
Just to make sure I've got it, so I can tell you know what to do, so, okay.
And you could call me.
Okay.
A week in
Email me,
advance.
Whatever. I just don't want it to be incumbent.
You don't want to get a bunch of numbers
To
and then
ask
it's
you.
interpret, yes.
Yeah,
You
by
want
May
it
7th.
first, by May 7th.
And there are some new items, new.
Wait, we can't
line
hear
items.
Laura, hold on a second.
That's okay.
By May 7th,
Okay.
you request to stop, right? You
I'm
request
sending
to
it
stop.
now.
By May 7th?
By May
And it's just to be provided, to be provided.
Actually, the sooner the better.
Yeah,
So,
we have it sooner, we get it sooner, but
I mean,
Before,
And
more
we're-
time.
we're- sorry.
We were talking about when Dana and Vicky and everybody but you was going to get us the support for anything that you want us to consider, and the support.
You want support for going down on the GA and the variances on the town, which I thought we sent to them. Do you want further support? That's where I'm a little.
We can provide that.
no, there's some categories that are additional, new categories.
I mean, I'll let them
And
know. It may not be like what. I'm sure you guys will,
I just don't want to wait until May 14th to tell you that I don't know enough about what you're asking on a line item to analyze it
Like you
appropriately.
said, in the original discussion, there's a lot of changes, structurally. That we think are good, based on the suggestions some of the board members have made, so really Dana did include a memo that explained the increase in that town budget. So we can explain it again and, do a breakdown, which I think she did, but not being there is hard to, there was a lot of detailed stuff.
Okay.
I think, I'll give an example, Laura, maybe this would be helpful too. The budget,
Susan is giving an example.
there's budgeted
I know,
expense,
but I can't hear anything Susan said.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Well, no, I can hear it clearly well, I can hear Kim, I can hear Dave.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
I can't get any closer than this.
Louder.
So, in administration for budgeted expenditures under the town fund, I've actually gone through several line items.
We moved the food
So-
pantry to the town fund. So that's one of the things, and are you talking about the one you guys didn't vote on? The one that you're not even considering right
No, I'm looking at the increase over actuals in administration,
now? Yes.
and it goes up 22%. So I have a question, because regardless of, the salaries going up in healthcare, I mean, whatever happens with the different suggestions that you've made to look at, increasing the budget by, whether it's healthcare or salaries or the capital fund, whatever. This particular line item, I don't understand why it's 22%. So rationale to that would help me understand why it's going up.
So what I'm thinking we'll do,
So much.
we'll take this spread, like, you guys got this? My thought is, if this would be helpful for you guys, we'd have a column here, and anything that's changing, we'll have a written description of what that changes, and then if there's some supporting documents that we'll have, like, refer to, example A, example B. So each one that has a change will then have a description of why it's a different amount for you guys here.
Yes.
And then when you look at it, you can say, okay, well, this went up $10,000 because, this didn't have, such and such in it, or, there's a big change in this, or it went down because we're not planning on spending as much in that. So every line item, would that be helpful?
Yes,
Yes.
there's a lot of time that was
Okay.
able to.
But Vicki too, I mean, the thing that I'm concerned about is I'd like to compare to last year's actual, not last year's budget
Well, it will be
necessarily.
Dana and Vicky doing it, Laura.
And they're saying
So-
we can do it, so.
So, for example, on the administrative costs for the expenditures, we spent 300,000 less than we budgeted. So the budget number to me doesn't mean as much. Actual is what shows what we actually spent. So the fact that we're gonna try to increase that 22%, and I don't understand why, I'd like to know that in advance as opposed to waiting for the workshop to find that out.
Proposal will cover.
Yeah, that will help,
Vicky's
yeah,
up
cut down the
I
discussion.
understand what you guys are asking for, I will relay that.
You know, and what I did was, I went through every line item and I starred the things that seem to have significant increases. So if I don't, to Claire's point, you know, it would save us time in the actual workshop if we understood why some of these, you know.
But that's what the workshop's for.
Yeah, and Vicki understands what we're asking for, and she can do it, she said. So I think we're all good.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so,
Before we go to old business, I just have one other new business question. Laura, maybe you can comment on this. I had seen during bill pay that.
I'm sorry.
I had seen during bill pay that.
oh wait, she can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. That there was an ad put out and that we're recruiting for the director position of general assistance. And that's new news to me, so can you comment on that? I thought we had talked.
I couldn't hear the rest of it.
She saw that there was an ad taken out for the director of GA position, so she didn't know about that, so she was wondering if you could comment on that.
We told you we were posting it. We told you that like a month ago. We interviewed 3 people.
Were you?
Yes.
I don't recall ever discussing that in a board meeting, that we were hiring for that position.
And it's been on the website. Claire sent me the next day an email like Claire saying she didn't see it posted, and then it got me was posted because they're in her room and left it on. And you don't remember the last meeting?
No, none of us do.
What the question is?
I shouldn't say none. I can't speak for everybody else.
So you don't want me to do that?
I didn't know if it was going to be director. I thought that there was, I wasn't sure. I thought you had said we have a way to pare down general assistance significantly and that salary would not be included again.
No, we have an acting director. Part of my report is going to be pleased to announce that Austin will be our director. But, I mean, I'm going to have to go soon, so I'm not going to waive my report. And we can I can announce it at a special meeting. But, if you don't want jobs posted, I didn't really have this discussion.
I was surprised by seeing this in bill pay. I didn't recall ever having any discussion whatsoever about it.
well, we'll look at our notes
So,
and the.
I just didn't recall.
I'm not sure, are you objecting?
I'm asking you to explain.
For jobs in
And I think what Laura's saying is that she can hire people in GA without posting, so she's not understanding why the posting is causing.
I did, yeah, you were thrilled when I did it. Don Adam didn't do it a year ago. The thing that I did, we interviewed 3 people, and there was a clear person that hit all our parameters, like all of our policies that we've adopted, our personnel, and that will save us. Well, I mean, it will definitely be a different salary than Marcy, or than our old director, but, so I was trying to be more transparent, but I'm not seeing the problem. What's the problem?
I think you answered Susan's question. Right, Susan?
Yeah, so you're making a recommendation and you are hiring Austin for that position?
You guys are not going to be voting.
Okay. So you are appointing,
I'm going to be appointing Austin Kalman.
okay?
But that's in my board report, and for our lawyers to check that it's part of a board report, that it's like right now, 10 o'clock, and I have a 8 o'clock procedure. So, yeah, it's nothing that's going to the board for approval. I was gonna announce it, but I can announce it at the special meeting.
Okay,
You can acting director, executive.
You can announce it now.
Well, yeah.
I think you already did.
Been there, yeah. So, I am pleased to announce that Austin will be the director of benefits. Austin, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Present.
All right. Congratulations. Can everybody give him a round of applause? Yeah, at the special meeting, I will announce salary and all of this stuff. I'm not there right now, so I don't have a sheet.
okay.
But we did interview 3 people, 1 person was not, like, even remotely. The other one came from Edison or from Austin was by far the best. And has done many jobs of this department in the time he's been.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, so that was my report. That's just old.
Is there any old business? Is there any old business?
No, there's none.
Okay, so officials report, we got Laura's.
Yep.
Anything else, Laura?
No,
Does anybody want to make a?
I will waive in the spirit of time. Are we going to close session? I mean,
I'll also wait. I wait.
Yep. I will also waive my report.
I will waive my report as well.
Same here.
I will waive my report.
I just want to mention that the assessor's office is sponsoring 2 reach-out programs for our triennial assessment. And this will help people work on their assessments. That will be coming out May 3rd from the County Assessor's Office. The first one is scheduled May 6th at the Park Ridge Library at 6:30. And the second one is May 15th at Town Hall here at 6 o'clock. And we actually reserved this room and downstairs. We feel that we had an overflow 3 years ago. We couldn't accommodate everyone. And we're going to hold 2 programs here simultaneously at one time. So that's my report.
Thank you. Administrators report.
No report.
And so now, closed session.
We need a motion to go to closed session to discuss pending litigation.
I make a motion to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation.
Second.
Supervisor Morant?
yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabelli?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
yes.
I'm going to hang out with you here. when
I
we
just
leave
want to
today.
congratulate Austin.
Okay, so you're going to call back from the phone.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to go back to open session.
Second.
Call the roll? Yep. Supervisor Morant? Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabelli?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay, so the board went into closed session to discuss pending litigation case of Kirk Allen versus Maine Township, Illinois Department of Employment Security, 18 CH 15097, pending in the Circuit Court of Cook County. And we have a release and settlement agreement of that case. It was a FOIL lawsuit, and we have a proposal to settle this for $4,000. It's a non-precedential settlement, and the township is not admitting to any liability. So is there a motion to approve the release and settlement agreement?
Motion to approve. Motion.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve the release and settlement as presented.
Second.
Okay, vote.
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
And I will give a copy of the document to the clerk to be appended to the closed session minutes. And then I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
I'll make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Good luck, Laura.
All in
Yeah.
favor?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, trustee Gabby.
It did work.
Worked out well, worked out well.
Great job, Claire.
Yes, thank you, everybody.